It's time for another quick take, ladies and gentlemen. Rogers Cup, Montreal in the books. It is Sascha Zverev winning the title in a daytime final match against Roger Federer just moments ago. 6-3, 6-4. We're going to talk about that, but it's been a lovely tournament to watch. Shout out to Denis Shapovalov, young Canadian, upsetting Rafa Nadal en route to a semifinal run. That was awesome, but we are going to talk about today's match. It was Alexander Zverev beating Roger Federer 6-3, 6-4 once again. And it's clear to me that Roger Federer sustained an injury. The game that I think it happened was 2-2 in the second set. But let's talk about this match as if Federer was fine up to that point, because we can learn a lot from it. And I want to start by talking about Sascha Zverev at length, because I don't think that I've actually had a chance to really give my thoughts on him on this channel, unless I'm mistaken. So Zverev is part of a trend that we see in a lot of sports. So basketball, for example, NBA. Kevin Durant is a big man, 6'11", who can do little man things. He can dribble like a little man. He can shoot like a little man. It doesn't make sense. He's 6'11", but he can still do these things. In MMA, John Jones is 6'3", with an 85-inch reach, 205 pounds, but he has the speed of a little man. His technique is as refined as the guys in the lower weight classes. So we see this in so many sports. The people who excel are bigger people who can do things as well as the little people, because generally when you're bigger, you don't move as well, you're not as coordinated. When guys like Zverev come around and they break these rules, that is when you are looking at a very, very, very scary athlete. So my comparison, Brad Gilbert made it actually on the American broadcast. It's spot on. That's who I've had in my mind this whole time. It's Juan Martín Del Potro. His career has been sort of derailed by injury. I hope he gets back to the top. I'm always pulling for him. But Del Potro is the other guy that comes to mind, where he's a dude, 6'6", hits huge from both wings, and can move. You look at a guy like Tomas Berdych, hits huge from both wings, and it obviously helps to be big when if you're going to have really big ground strokes, normally you're a big guy. Fabio Fognini, Roger Federer, being exceptions, right? I know I shouldn't mention Fognini and Federer. Anyway, Fognini's like 5'10" and hits huge. It's crazy. But generally, the big guys hit it bigger. Now, when you take a guy like Tomas Berdych and you watch him hit, you're like, oh my God, thank God he doesn't move all that well. Thank God. But with Zverev, I got news for you. He does move that well. He's got great movement. So that's what's so scary about Sascha Zverev. Look, you do not do the things that Zverev has done at 20 years old. If barring injury, barring tragedy, if you are doing these things at 20 years old, you are going to be I won't say all-time great. I'll try to avoid hyperbole. You're going to win majors. Sascha Zverev is the real deal. You don't just do this at 20 years old and then kind of fade off into the distance. It just doesn't happen. He is so for real, it's not even funny. I saw an interesting stat. I'm shocked, blown away by this stat. He's the first player to win 2 Masters 1000s in the same year since, is this even right? Since David Nalbandian in 2007? Hold on, power of video editing. I'm going to make sure to see this is right. Okay, upon further review, this stat makes absolutely no sense to me. A to Z, that's his nickname for Alexander Zverev, is 2 games away from being first to win 2 1000s in season, none Big Four since Nalby, I believe he's referring to David Nalbandian, did in 2007, Madrid and Paris. That doesn't make any sense to me. If it makes any sense to you, please comment in the comment section how that stat makes any sense. Not hating on Brad Gilbert, love the guy, but I just regurgitated that stat and it sounded wrong. So I had to go back and look at it, and it still sounds wrong to me. I mean, plenty of players have won 2 1000s in a season. I don't know what I'm missing. Okay, we've been sidetracked here. I was talking, basically, the point is, Alexander Zverev is the real deal times 10. And, there's whichever stat you want to use to back it up, and there are plenty out there, it's true. Let's talk about the match. In the first set, there's clearly a difference in sharpness. Federer missed some volleys that I am not used to seeing him missing. His first serve percentage was under 50. I don't know if it finished the first set under 50, but for the majority of the first set, it was under 50%. He was also missing a lot of slice backhands that you're not used to seeing him missing. So Zverev, on the other hand, was clearly, at his tip-top game, at his peak performance. So that would have been enough to steal Zverev the first set, but there was also something tactical that I thought was a little bit off for Federer, and you do see it sometimes. There aren't a lot of guys on tour who can out-hit Roger Federer, but Sascha Zverev is probably one of them. I felt Federer's ground strokes were way too loopy in the first set. He was way too content to trade with Zverev, and give him loopy topspin forehands and topspin backhands. Zverev, he's 6'6". He loves that. He eats it for breakfast. One of the better shots of the first set, I thought Federer hit a pedestrian, and I mean this kind of not in a bad way, believe it or not, a backhand cross-court trade that would normally be fine, but Zverev ran around it and hit a clean inside-out forehand winner, and that's when I'm like, wait a second, there's something off right now. Federer can't hit that ball to Zverev. He's got to change it up. Federer has the ability to keep his ground strokes very low. He can do it on his backhand with his slice, but he can do it on his forehand by flattening it out. He's very good at that. It's not easy to do for some players, but Federer's very good at it. He can do it. In the first set, very loopy ground strokes, which, tactically I thought was a little off, along with a deficit in sharpness between the two players, and Zverev won at 6-3. In the second set, beginning of the second set, Federer's mind was clearly working. He was clearly searching for an adjustment, and he did a really good job. So oftentimes I'm watching Federer matches, and I'm like, hey, he should make this adjustment, and he does it. I mean, he's so good, and it's a lot easier to watch a tennis match from the outside and say, this guy should do this differently. Federer is able to, on the inside, make these adjustments. He sliced his backhand way more. He flattened out his forehand, keeping it low, serve and volleying. He created a break point for himself at 1-2 with back-to-back points. Tries a drop shot and comes in behind it. Chips and charges, draws an error. Zverev saved the break point, won the game, but that's not the point. He was digging into the match here. Early in the second set, it actually, things were looking pretty good for Federer. Zverev, mind you, his level really remained very, very high. Otherwise, Federer, I'm certain of it, would have come out to an early lead in the second set. The point was, his mind was working really, really well. He did make the adjustments that he needed to make, and where Federer should have Zverev beat is the number of ways he can win a point. But, Federer should be able to reach into that arsenal and make Zverev uncomfortable. He did not do that in the first set. He began to do that in the second set. And I tweeted out at this point, you should follow me on Twitter, by the way. It's at Gill Gross, 2L. So GILL_GROSS. Follow me on Twitter. Federer at 2-all. I tweeted after this 2-1. I'm like, after Zverev held serve and made it 2-all, I tweeted, this is a dogfight. This is a match. This is getting good. And just as it did get good, something suddenly seemed off for Federer. And it got worse and worse as the set progressed. And you were kind of thinking to yourself in the beginning, like, his serve looks a little off. To me, I thought that he was catching his ball toss very late. He was letting the ball drop too much. He wasn't going up and getting it. On the broadcast, they were calling it a sidewinder serve. I don't really understand that. But certainly his serve, it looked a little bit different, looked a little bit off. So at first you're like, what's going on there? And then as the second set progressed, you're like, oh yeah, there is something definitely, no doubt about it, wrong with Roger Federer. I'll give my 2 cents on the injury. I would be very surprised if it's not a back injury. And the reason for that is we saw it really come out on his serve. If it were like a knee injury, which, he's had trouble with those knees. He's strengthened up his legs, and done a lot of work off the court to make sure that he doesn't have knee problems ever again. Obviously, no guarantees, but I know he's worked really hard on that. I don't think it's his knee because I thought he looked very stiff walking around in between points. But the serve, I think if it were a knee problem, we wouldn't see any change in his serve, but the serve is where the injury was probably most apparent. So I'm suspecting it's a knee injury for Roger Federer. A back injury for Roger Federer. And hopefully, maybe some spasms, maybe he just tweaked it. Probably not anything too severe. His demeanor after the match to me was encouraging, because I feel like if he felt that he, had a bulging disc or he herniated a disc or something like that, if he felt that sort of intense pain, I don't think he would have been laughing, at Sascha Zverev's cracks in the post-match address, after winning a title, the on-court trophy ceremony address. Anyway, I thought that his demeanor was encouraging. Will he play Cincinnati? What we've learned about Roger Federer is he's going to err on the side of caution. So I don't think he's going to play Cincinnati if I were to guess. However, is he in any danger to miss the U.S. Open? I don't think so. Like I said, I feel that it would have been a little bit more drastic if it. I think it's the back, and I think it would have looked a little bit. We would have seen more drastic changes in Roger Federer's mood, his attitude, his demeanor, and even his movement if it was an injury that could keep him out of the U.S. Open. So I think he's fine in that respect. One more thing I guess I should address, since I've been watching Roger Federer all week, how do I feel about his performance at Montreal? Big picture. How do I feel about his prospects as the favorite to win the U.S. Open at this juncture after what I saw in Montreal? And I will say this. I thought that the most positive thing for Federer is that he was on an upward trajectory throughout the week. Match after match, he was starting to look better and better. He did have his struggles, like in the second round against David Ferrer. There were certainly some ugly moments, but I thought that he got better and better. So that was positive. Clearly, Montreal is just not his favorite place to play. Now, am I absolutely shocked that throughout his illustrious career, he's never been able to solve the puzzle that is the courts and the conditions in Montreal? Yes. Some things I wonder about. Well, first of all, it was very windy. Federer's a great wind player, but it was very windy throughout the week, and I do wonder about the altitude in Montreal because a lot of the balls were flying on Roger Federer, especially his backspin, especially his... Did I just say backspin? I meant backhand, especially his backhand down the line. And his serve was a little off all week. So that's a big thing. He definitely, will look to hone in his serve a little bit and get that better. He's got plenty of time before the U.S. Open. Who knows if he's going to play Cincinnati at this point. So like I said, in terms of the tournament as a whole, I thought since he was getting better and better each match that there was nothing to worry about. I was looking forward, obviously, to the toughest test of the tournament that was surely to be Sascha Zverev, and I think that he was starting to do the right things early in that second set. Unfortunately, he got injured. Hopefully, it's not that bad. Hopefully, he can play Cincinnati. I'm sure he'll make the correct decision, whatever he does. So that'll be all. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.